Being my first interview, man. I really appreciate you being here, as I was just saying before we got on camera.
Yeah.
And I thought we would just start off, before we get into everything, just how we first met.
So, I met you in my 20s, early 20s, and maybe even earlier, maybe 18, 19 years old. And we had a mutual friend, and he saw, some similarities between us.
Well, I told him I needed some weed.
Yes.
And he said, I know the guy.
Yes.
I know the guy.
So, yeah, back then, I was the weed guy. That's how I made my coin. I was hustling, and, I was just on a whole different planet. I was getting high every day, and I wanted to be Scarface.
I remember. Well, let's talk. Let's go back a little bit just before that, and I guess it's probably before you met me, obviously. But how did this all start for you? Like, how did you first get involved with selling drugs?
So I did it a bit in high school, but I felt there was just like too many people talking, a lot of talkers. So I kind of waited a little bit. I was always interested in the fast money. So as soon as I got out of high school and I was in college and stuff, I just remember I had my first job. I was delivering pizza, and that was all going well. And then I was using that to pay my rent and stuff. And then all of a sudden, my parents didn't want me to work there anymore. I had a car that was given to me by my grandpa, and I wasn't supposed to use it for pizza delivery. So then they didn't want me to work there anymore, and I was just out of options at the time. I really needed to pay rent, and then I started selling weed at the time, and I had my rent money ready in less than a week.
So pizza delivery turned into weed delivery.
Weed delivery, yes. And
I guess the parents didn't know about that.
They're not stupid, but they caught on later.
Right.
As shit progressed.
Right.
But so I just remember, I was say 18, maybe 19, lost a job, and then I was by myself, living by myself, nobody really looking at me. So I was just like, you know what, let's sell some weed.
And so obviously, when I come into the picture, you're already well established at doing that. And I had a friend or had someone who I was getting from before, and it just wasn't good. It wasn't a good situation. And so that other friend, our mutual friend there, connected us. It was a great connect. And obviously at that time, I don't know, I'm not there, but from an outsider perspective, it would seem that things were stable as stable can be in that type of industry, where you're saying you're making a good amount of money, you're moving a good amount of, tell me about that.
Yeah, so it started off really innocent, I was, at that point, I wasn't into any hard drugs. I was just drinking, I was smoking weed, I was going to the bars on the weekend, nothing too crazy. So, and I was just using that for income straight up. I took my job very seriously. Wanted to make sure I was meeting everyone on time. I was giving everyone the competitive prices and all that stuff. So, it wasn't too bad back then when it started. But, as things progressed, it's easy to get carried away.
Well, let's talk about that a little bit, because that's sort of where I want to ask you about. How did it start to, I don't know if fall apart is the right way to put it, but how would you describe where it went?
So on my journey, what I realized was, for the most part, you are who you surround yourself with. So, I had a really nice group of friends in high school. We're all super nice. We all got along and all that stuff. And then basically I just got deeper and deeper into the game, and I started like hanging out with like worse and worse people. And then, you know, all of a sudden I got introduced to hard drugs. I was hanging out, you know, just with the wrong people, and I was just, you know, I was just taking it to a whole other level. And I started using daily. You know, it went from it started off like I was going to the bar on the weekend, drinking, you know, and I would work all week. And then suddenly, you know, now I'm going a couple times during the week. And then it got to the point where I was doing drugs every fucking day. You know, I might have not told people about it. You know, part of the addiction is the lying. You know what I mean? So I was doing drugs every day, and I was selling, and we all know where that goes. So, and yeah, it just progressed more and more. I got deeper and deeper into the game, and you know, it took its course.
If you can, because you say we all know where that goes, but I think a lot of people watching this might not. People may have some type of way they think about these type of things, but so much of these conversations are really taboo in society. People don't talk about these things, right? If you lose your job, if you fall on hard times, it's very difficult. And I think now we are moving into an era where people are doing that more, and people are connecting through that. People are understanding that people go through times similar to them. And I wonder if you're able and if you're comfortable with it, just explain that a little bit more. Just where do those things go where, like you're saying, it goes from you're partying on the weekends to, you know, it's a couple times in the week, and now it's every day, and you're just figuring out how to sort of, like you're saying, lie to people, right? To trick people into not knowing, I guess, that you're still high, or tell me about that if you can.
So the difference with my story is I had all the opportunities. You know, I come from a good family. My mom and dad are still together. They're great people. I chose my path at the end of the day. You know, you reap what you sow. And for me, this is what I wanted to do at one point. You know, I wanted to be the guy. I wanted to be the man. I wanted to be Thor the man. You know, holler at me. I got what you want. I wanted to be that person. However, I had other opportunities. I could have worked a straight job. I could have went to school. But, you know, people who know me, that's just not me. I'm a little different. I work a little differently. And so what happened with me was I just kept trying, and I kept continuing in the game, and I got into hard drugs. I was using every day. I was making poor decisions. I was hanging around the wrong groups of people, and, you know, eventually in 2013, I got charged for selling drugs, and I had to do my time for what I did. And I was so deep in my addiction, you know, I was doing drugs in jail. I was fucked. Like, and then when I got out, the first thing I did was I went back to it, you know, because I didn't know any other ways to live and how to make money that fast. And, you know, I had bills to pay, and, you know, it just comes with all the problems.
Let's go back a second, because there's a lot in what you just said there.
Yes.
There's a lot.
Yes.
And so I think it's a good time for us to talk about jail.
Yes.
And so can we start with, so again, if you're comfortable talking about this, how did that happen? Because I remember I knew you at this time, and things seemed like they were still good, and then I think maybe you, even the person who said, look at this in the newspaper, and because you weren't being named at that point, they had just said what had happened, but you said, that's me.
So, like, you want like the details of how I got arrested?
Yeah, I mean.
Okay, so going back at you know, surrounding yourself with the wrong people. So I had a guy, you know, he was selling for me, and, you know, he was an idiot, and he didn't manage his money properly. So he told me he had this sale with his good friend and yada yada yada. So I'm like, okay, this guy's fucking stupid. So I'm going to go with him to his sale and make sure I get my cash because, you know, this guy could just go out to the bar and just spend my money. So I show up at the wrong place at the wrong time. It was the end of a big bust. He had an undercover cop buying drugs off of him, and like daily for like a month or 2 months straight. And this was the final bust where I decided to finally show up because like I didn't trust his, you know, his money management skills or whatever. So he got out of my car with the drugs, sold it to the undercover, got back into my car, gave me the marked money, and I drove off. And that's where my life got pretty interesting.
So they caught up to you, obviously.
So, yeah, so then I drove, and then I looked in my rear view. There's a bunch of fucking cops. It was like 4 in the afternoon. It was just off of Lee's Avenue. I was like, the exit was closed. That's where I was going to make my getaway. And I just remember looking in my rear view, and it was like the drug squad, but it was like so intense. Like they had like the big fucking like machine guns out, and they had like masks on, and I was like, holy shit, you know? And then like after that, I don't think I drove for like a good 2 or 3 years because I had some flashbacks every time I like got into a car and like looked into the rear view or whatever. PTSD. So yeah, that really fucked me up mentally. But yeah, that was a crazy day.